Okay, this is just too great not to share. How would you like to own an additional 1,000 shares of Palantir and not have to take the money out of your bank account to get it? That's exactly what I am accomplishing. And the extra shares that I am amassing from this strategy that I have been working is going to yield me an additional $167,000 worth of Palantir stock if Palantir stock reaches 150, or shall I say when Palantir stock reaches 150. Basically, what I am doing is the core trading method. And the core trading method is when you take your position of a stock and you sell half of it once you have a substantial gain. We all know the feeling if we have completely sold out of the position and it keeps running. It creates that feeling of fear of missing out. FOMO is what they call it. And when that happens, unfortunately, you find yourself chasing a stock and you'll keep buying it even if there's a gap from the time you sold it to the new entry price, only to see it pull back, and then you realize you could have just waited and acquired your shares at a lower amount. Well, when you do the core trading method, you avoid all of that because you keep half of your position running at all times, but you do leverage the other half and take profit. But the reason you're taking profit is just to increase your position size in the stock. So I have been collecting Palantir shares for quite some time now, and this group of shares that I sold were a little bit over $18 a share when you blend in the pricing of them all. I sold them at $27 a share. It was 3,500 shares, and that yielded me an additional $27,000. Well, when you take that $27,000 and use it to buy more shares lower than the price that you sold them for, that is what is giving me the additional 1,000 shares at the $25 mark. And once these hit 150, that will be an additional $167,000 in additional Palantir that I have. And I didn't have to do anything other than sell for profit, hold on to the profit, and then use that profit to do two things: sell puts against the stock at a level below where I sold my initial stock, and use the other half to actually buy the shares when it hits your price point. So I'm going to take you into the computer, into the math, and show you everything. But I wanted to come on and stress this to all of you because there's so many stocks that you can do this with. Palantir is just one, but the characteristics that you want to look for if you're going to do the core trading method, you want to find stocks that are volatile. When I say volatile, I mean those that have that zigzag shape when you look at the history of the stock. They have a predictable pattern that they trade in up and down. If you find stocks like that, then you can sell high and re-enter low when it comes back down. And that's really all it is. It's not complicated, but it can give you significant wealth by increasing your position size. So a list of stocks that I think are good for this right now are NVIDIA, Tesla. Some of your Bitcoin miner stocks are good for this right now, like CleanSpark, maybe even Mara, MSTR, which is MicroStrategy, and then, of course, Palantir and SoFi. You may have your own favorites. I would love for you to drop in the comment section your favorite stocks with high volatility that you may want to try this on. Now, these are the type of plays that I go over with my Discord members daily, and they are learning and growing their wealth, and that brings me so much satisfaction to know that any thoughts that I am sharing is helping other people to become wealthy. What more could you want out of life is helping others grow. So really excited for them, really excited for all of you that are able to take some of these lessons and actually use them to grow your wealth. I wanted to share something with you, and I hope you'll help me bring some joy to a fellow YouTuber. His name is Larry Jones. He runs the Stock Up with Larry Jones channel. Actually, Larry's channel is instrumental in pulling me into trading. And unfortunately, he's lost his brother, and it is an emotional time for him. And I think he could use your support and prayers. So if you would just take time after this video to jump on over to his channel and just leave him a little note of support. Tell him Ashley sent you, and tell him that you're thinking about him and that you will be keeping him in your prayers. All right, let's go into the computer and I'm going to show you everything I did and then how I am working this play to my advantage. All right, I am doing this technique with both NVIDIA and Palantir, but right now we're going to focus on Palantir. So here you see 3,500 shares. My acquisition cost was $65,703, and then I liquidated them at $93,000, yielding me a gain of $27,933. Now, this is being done in a Roth IRA, so I don't have to worry about taxes. But if you do have a cash account and you're going to be doing this, it would be best if you wait a year before you sell any of your positions so that you don't have to contend with short-term capital gains. But looking at this figure, $27,933, this is the profit. Now, my intent is to reinvest this profit back into Palantir, but at a lower price than what I sold it for. So I sold these shares at around the $27 mark. So now let's go look at the technical analysis on Palantir and let's see what a good re-entry price may be. And we're going to do this two ways. I have quite a bit of cash right now sitting in my broker, so we will use a portion of that to sell puts and we'll look at what that will yield us. But then I'll use the other portion to set a limit order to go ahead and buy back some of the shares that I sold, but at a lower price than 27. So first, let's go look at technical analysis, and then we'll move on to the trade itself. Here we are looking at the 1 month chart for Palantir. And this Bollinger Band gives you the potential range for Palantir's movement in the coming weeks. So you have 24.41 at the bottom and 30.38 at the top. So as you can see, we're at the top of the band. And once you're at the top of the band, typically what happens is individuals that have had the stock for a while, like me, start taking profit and then it retreats. So it could retreat to a couple of different levels. The first level is 27.40. Well, that would be fine because this is the 20-day moving average, but that's not going to help me much because I sold my shares at 27. So I want to have a re-entry that's lower than 27 so that I can expand the number of shares I have. So when you go down to the 50-day moving average, this serves as a good support level for a stock. It's currently sitting at 25.80. Now this would be a good re-entry for me because it will increase the number of shares I have. And if you look down here at the bottom of the band, if I could get re-entry at the bottom, this would be the best scenario for me because this is at 24.41. So this would give me well over an additional 1,000 shares buying it at 24.41. Also, I want to come look at the RSI. It's right down here. It says 64. Once we get to 70, we will be considered in an overbought category, and we can expect it to retreat at that time too. Now, if it has positive news come out about it, then it could blow through these technicals. So I do want to caution you, there's no guarantee that a stock is going to return to the point I want it to return to. But I have watched this stock for a while, so I do think that there is hope that I will be able to get additional shares lower than what I just sold at. One other thing you can take a look at is the candles themselves. So you see right down here at 24, we're at 24.09, this stock gapped up. So you see this gap that it created right here when it went to these higher levels. There is a tendency for stocks to fill the gap. Now this one is not too far from where we are now, so there is a strong likelihood that it could be filled in the coming weeks. But this gap right here gives me hope that it will be dropping down to maybe the $25 level. I'll really set my sights on $25. I think that would be the perfect re-entry based on where I sold my initial shares. The next thing I want to go do is look at the option chain because it's going to give me a little bit more information about where others might be anticipating this stock is going to be pulling back to. For this part of my trade, I am going to go ahead and go to the third Friday of the next month. So we're looking right here at September the 20th. This might be a potential good play. The market traditionally pulls back in September, and so I am hopeful that I will have my re-entry at that point. Now, I had settled on that $25 strike, so let's take a look at it and see what the chances are that we will settle in at 25 or below. Well, my first clue is the delta. If you look right here, there's about a 13-14% chance that on September the 20th, Palantir will be 25 or below. Typically, when I sell puts, I like to sell at around the 0.2 level, sometimes the 0.3. But there again, this is higher than I initially purchased those shares for. However, one thing is standing out to me. Look right here at the $27 mark. Now, I gave up my shares for $27, but do you see what I see? I would be paid at this point 91 cents in premium to sell the put right here at the $27 mark. So this would effectively make my entry closer to 26 if I account for this extra premium. So that has gotten my interest, and that might be a really good way to earn premium. And if I get put the shares, I will be getting them lower because I get this extra premium. Also, I could look at this $26 mark. This has some interest to me because when I look at the deltas right here, this is 0.18. So that gives me about a 20% likelihood that we'll be right here at the $26 mark. For that, I'll receive 65 cents a share. So this would put my re-entry somewhere around the $25.50 mark. And if I settle on the 25, it's less likely I'll be put the shares. However, if I am, look, I'll be getting almost 50 cents in premium. So this would make the shares effectively about $24.50. So what I might do is a combination of these trades just so I'm covered at all different levels. And I might split up my sold puts to account for looking at the $27 mark, the $26 mark, and even the $25 mark. The other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and set a buy order. Remember, I had sold 3,500 shares, and I want to use some of that capital to sell puts and generate premium that way and potentially be put the shares. But I want to go ahead and put in a buy order in case the market moves quick and I can grab some shares below that $27 mark. So I'm comfortable with doing this on about 2,000 shares at this point, and then I'll see how this performs, and if it keeps dropping, then I'll buy even more shares at a lower price. I want to more than likely do a series of buys. So my limit order right here will say, don't purchase this unless we get down to $25 a share, and then I will make this good till canceled. This will ensure that I am not overpaying for these stocks. And like I said, it moves quick. And so I want to go ahead and have this buy order in here good till canceled so that if I am busy or distracted and it hits my trigger, it'll go ahead and buy these shares. Now, to make this purchase, it is going to hold $50,000 of my capital, but that's okay because that's just a portion of the capital. I'm going to use the other capital to sell puts. And so basically how this will work is if PLTR comes down to the $25 mark, that will trigger my limit order and it will go ahead and make the purchase of 2,000 shares. And this will allow me to rebuy my shares $2 cheaper than I sold them for initially. That will further contribute to me expanding the number of shares I have. When these shares were sold, it created a cash balance for me of $93,636. The limit order that I just placed for 2,000 shares will pull $50,000 of that out of circulation. My plan is to go use the other $43,000 to sell puts at various levels. If you find this helpful and you want to receive my free email communication on how to trade, just make sure you sign up for the email list below and I will start sending you some wonderful trading tips that are actually really helping a lot of people learn how to trade.